MamaMax is a YouTuber with over 500,000 subscribers, but over a year ago, he was cancelled and left the internet. But now, he's returned with a 2.5-hour long video that drags everyone back into this. So in this video, we're going to be going through the situation from start to finish, to try and get to the truth, and for your sake, I've included timestamps on this video so you can find exactly what you want. Max Striker, known online as MamaMax, is a Texas-based YouTuber who first started his YouTube channel in 2019. During that summer, he started a video series which he called Life Sucks, and in this series, he discussed topics that he doesn't really find to be enjoyable in life, and also the daily inconveniences that he faced as a teenager. His content would shift slightly a couple of years later as he would focus more on the disturbing part of the internet, creating a mini-series called Saving Game, which consisted of 4 documentaries diving into strange and unknown video games. This would be Max's first proper taste of success, as these would do relatively well, but it seemed as though he didn't really know what direction he wanted to take his channel in, because during all of this he was also running a second channel called MamaMad, where he and a co-host would regularly react to different episodes of anime. This was intended to be more comedic than his main channel, which was still serious at this point, and eventually, the MamaMad content would expand out to commentary-style videos, where the pair would react to Twitch moments or other relevant topics. Eventually though, Max left this channel because he wanted to put all of his focus onto his main channel. And sure enough, because of the extra effort that he was putting in, something eventually stuck. Although his original inspiration for starting his channel was popular commentary YouTubers such as Leafy is Here, Max went down a bit of a different route. Around this time, YouTube was catching a lot of criticism in the media for predators using their platform, and Max decided that he wanted to step in. So he made his first video, which he presented as a real documentary, exposing a channel known as Cartoon Incorporated. The channel used popular children's movies and TV shows to lure in kids, and then showed subliminal messages related to or exploitation. Max spoke about them for nearly half an hour, but claims that he forgot to archive any of the videos before they had been deleted. The only evidence that Cartoon Inc. had ever actually existed was a small clip featured in his video, which was titled Frozen Free. As a result of him not keeping any archives, the channel essentially became lost media, and it got people talking. If something as disturbing as this had really existed, then obviously it was great that it was taken down, but it was also no surprise that people wanted to find out what was actually on the channel. The video did well, and he continued to create content in this vein, even earning himself the title of Predator Hunter. He started to go after individuals on chat websites and made them believe that they were speaking to a child before eventually revealing that he was actually a grown man. He would then air out all the details on YouTube, such as their face and their name, before claiming to report any of his findings to the FBI or other law enforcement agencies. YouTube have notoriously not been fans of this type of content though, and it was no different with Max. Although he may have eventually gotten contacts like partner managers or the like, no one is safe from YouTube. So when one of his videos was removed for violating their bullying and harassment policy, he started a movement. The removal sparked a lot of controversy, and Max started a hashtag, #AnswerUsYouTube. He was featured on massive channels like SomeOrdinaryGamers and Nexpo, who he had also managed to become friends with around this time. And he was adamant that he had done everything right by exposing this predator-filled website, hiding their personal information for the sake of the video, and reporting it all to the FBI and the NCMEC. He claims that he had appealed and that YouTube had denied him, so he essentially had no other choice but to go public with it. The video was eventually reinstated and currently has over 2 million views. And for the next couple of years, Max wouldn't let YouTube's response to his videos stop him from creating more content. He would make follow-up videos exposing websites and apps such as IMVU, and in one video, he would make the focus exposing one predator, a man who was allegedly speaking to minors on IMVU known as PabloSunny. Now, the story here is a bit strange because before now, we didn't really have any evidence that this had actually gone through the legal system. PabloSunny allegedly groomed a young girl on the IMVU website, and when he was exposed, he removed all the music that he had released as an aspiring performer and reportedly even left the city of Vancouver where he resided. His whereabouts nowadays are unknown, but what is known is that Max may have actually lied about him getting arrested. His IMVU video was taken down for a while, and before it was reinstated, he went on a podcast. He was asked more about his intentions with the videos that he creates, and in one of the clips, he says this.
What is your primary goal? Is that then? There's no, what's your other,
Well, I guess the question is like, the next getting at is like, okay, so you want to enact this change. What do you hope is the eventual result of your video?
Okay.
Of all of this.
So I know there's people out there saying I'm doing it to self-serve. I just want my video back up. I don't give a shit if my video comes back up. It did what it needed to do. The rapist that was in the video is currently in police custody. And
was that as a result of your video, or was
yes.
that prior to the video?
Yes, it was because of the video.
Right.
The video was about IMVU and this one predator. I made it about him and him alone.
IMVU is a game, right? You played the game and you exposed this guy.
Yes.
Do you mind walking me through the chain of events that led from your video to him being imprisoned?
Yeah, so I dropped the video. The end of the video is a call to action. Usually all my videos are a call to action, like find him, and we did.
So in this case, find him meant like you didn't know who he was. You wanted his doc so he could go to jail.
All we had was his face and his voice.
Right.
And out of that, I said, find him. And then within 24 hours, we found him. And then I started social engineering all of his friends to give me his information. And they did. And then we pegged him. He fled to Mexico. We found where he was in Mexico.
Wow.
I don't know if the police, he was from Canada. So I don't know if the police asked him to come back.
As all terrible people are.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if the police asked him to come back or he went on his own volition or they forced him to come back. I don't know any of those details. I just know he went back to Canada and was in police custody for a certain amount of time.
But funnily enough, in a stream a few years later, he would seemingly forget his own story and would say this.
Try to contact Global News to catch Zach is my Vancouver news station. Thank you, Angela. I think he's in the Philippines. I'm pretty sure that's where we tagged him.
What about my case has you super focused on it?
Oh, what about your case?
Yeah.
I'm so sick of having predators that run away like PabloSunny and we don't get them.
So not only were his videos already getting criticism at this point for being very over the top, but it seemed as though they weren't even leading to arrests. This clip has slightly been taken out of context by a lot of people though, so I kind of want to explain. Later in the podcast, he does go on to say that he doesn't know if PabloSunny is still in police custody, but in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do when handling subjects as important as this is to not speak publicly about it until the person is not only in police custody, but it has gone through the courts. And MamaMax really failed to do this, especially by speaking about it on a podcast when really he had no information. Because when you're making content directly calling out specific people, accusing them of being horrible things, then the number one thing is to really get law enforcement involved. And at this point in time, he had made a lot more videos, and people were starting to notice that he was making a lot of it about himself. Not only because of the over-the-top visuals, but because at this point, a lot of the calls to action in his videos weren't to get people to report the predators, but rather to help him out by supporting him on Patreon. In one of his short films, he even goes into how kids are being trafficked and how nothing is being done about it. He gives a lot of statistics and tells people that there are ways they can help to stop these people from enslaving children. He follows this up with a QR code that will teach you how you can help, but when you scan it, it actually takes you back to one of his videos. You'd think that it would link out to external resources, but no. So at the end of the day, when all of this was coming to light, it really seemed as though the focus was more on him getting clicks than actually protecting kids.
Why don't you go to Patreon and show your appreciation? Every dollar helps me find another.
One of his biggest selling points was that every dollar helps him catch another predator, and from what we've seen here, that was far from the case. And he knew He even spoke about it at one point in his live streams that a large part of his audience were made up of people who had survived CSA. So whether he meant it or not, he was essentially using their trauma to get more sales, even going as far as to claim that PabloSunny had been arrested even though he had no concrete evidence that he actually had. So at this point in the timeline of events, there were a portion of people who loved what Max did and a portion of people who would criticize everything he did. And he didn't ignore this, he actually acknowledged it a lot. His approach to criticism and basically anyone who wasn't on his side was to instantly accuse them of not supporting kids, not being there for survivors, or outright being pedophiles themselves. Realistically, this shouldn't have come as a surprise either, because at this point he had already run 2 major campaigns against YouTube, so it was always going to trickle down to other content creators. But in one video, he did something that some people saw as going too far, and rightly so. But before we get into that though, we need to talk a bit about a big portion of this, because this all happened quite quickly and eventually led to Max making the most outrageous allegation of his entire career. And that is the period of time where his exes spoke out against him and blatantly accused him of abuse. I'm not going to lie, it's very difficult to actually come to a conclusion on this, because it's very much one person's word against another. Right now, with everything that we know and Max's history of lying, it would make sense to believe the exes. But there's videos out there that handle the topic much better than I can in just a portion of this, and they have much more experience and knowledge on the subject than me. But all that's really important to note here is that the allegations were posted by a person called Anthony Field, known online as Magnetar. Importantly, he was the boyfriend of one of the women who spoke out against Max in the video, so it would make sense as to why he wanted to share the story and get it out there. At this point in time though, Max wasn't ready to leave the internet though, and he responded with an hour-long video. In the last 6 minutes of the video, he decided to state, not accuse, that Magnetar was a I don't know why he ever thought that was a smart thing to do. And he did this all while giving out Magnetar's full name and hinting at his workplace. All he had to push this narrative was direct messages from someone who had come to him to claim that Magnetar had sent them explicit pictures while they were a minor. There were no screenshots of this alleged interaction. All there was to take from what Max had provided was that it was again one person's word against another. And it seemed like he was using this to push home his narrative because the video was titled "Believe All Abusers." Realistically, all he could try to do was dispute their stories publicly and try to put their accounts into doubt. So by releasing these messages with a supposed victim, he always knew that it was always going to be Magnetar's word against his, and he had a much bigger audience than Magnetar. When challenged on this, he stood by what he did and said publicly that he believes we should believe all survivors. No matter how you think, using that logic, when we consider that there are 5 different girls with 5 different stories against Max, then surely we should believe them. But in his video, he made out that they were all false. So not only had he now accused a person of being a terrible thing without any proof, but he had defeated his own logic in doing so. Magnetar has spoken out against the harassment he has faced and even tried to take legal action against Max. Sadly, he didn't reach the goal with his public funding page, but he did the right thing in returning all the donations to the donors. Still very disappointing though that Max could go as far as to accuse a man of something like this without any proof, essentially try to ruin his life and get away without having to take any responsibility. So now we're getting into the big part of this story, when Max was forced to leave the internet. In January 2024, it was revealed that Max had actually faked a large portion of his videos. When he was pulled up in this, he finally admitted that he had never actually gotten a sent to prison, and basically put the blame on the viewers for not believing that the videos were fake in the first place. This gets even more disturbing when you consider the fact that for years, he had portrayed his community as this safe place for CSA survivors where he was the hero, even helping a group of cult survivors. When all of this came out, it was headed by Mudahar and Nicholas Diorio. And Max even tried to low-key threaten them privately by saying that they would be seen as being on the wrong side of history. And of course, before Nicholas could release a second video going over more of the allegations, Max released his own video, in which a lot of people thought that it seemed as though he was just trying to garner sympathy from his viewers. At the end of the video, he even included some survivor testimonies from one of his cases. And although those certainly deserve to be aired, there's a time and a place. And when you position them like that, it makes it seem like you're trying to hide behind them rather than do the right thing. It's manipulative. So not only did he go on the offensive publicly against Mudahar, but he also indicated in his private Discord server that he was going to start a class action lawsuit against him. And this wasn't just Max that was going to do this, but one of the survivors who's known as Spencer. There's a lot to get into with Spencer, so I'll just give you a quick rundown. She was one of the survivors of the vampire cult that MamaMax was exposing. She apparently waited 3 years for him to start the investigation, and people immediately saw a lot of red flags with the whole situation. First of all, nothing was really clear. They did a multiple hours long podcast where they discussed the situation, and anyone who would ever ask for a brief breakdown of it were simply directed to that. It also seemed as though the reason it was being pushed so much is because Max has admitted that he wanted to grow her social media presence, and he thought the best way to go about doing that was to give her a popular YouTube channel. It just got worse when he started a GoFundMe for the victims of the cult, but put Spencer in charge of the finances. Around this time, she had also been homeless, and so Max invited her to move in with him. So people thought that putting her in charge of the money, which was around $10,000, was understandably a terrible idea. And it's hard to disagree with them in that, especially when it was revealed recently, and we'll get more into this later, that it was actually Max who had to split the money between the survivors because it was found that Spencer had been mishandling the money. Shocker. I know. And money continues to be the word of the hour because that's exactly what Max's lawsuit was seeking. In a message sent to the Discord, he had said that Spencer had agreed to be the main plaintiff, and he urged other survivors to speak out against Mudahar so that he could win the case, which cited him as causing harassment, defamation, and also emotional distress. Max claimed that Mudahar was extremely rich, so that he was seeking $1 million, which would then be distributed among the survivors. Mudahar wasn't scared of this, and for good reason. He went on to say in his video on the subject that this case would likely be thrown out in court because the message is basically proven that the only reason Max was doing this was for the money. He was just looking for a payday, and he was basically trying to guilt survivors into backing this case so that their case could then be taken further. And this private Discord server we've been talking about was actually leaked thanks to MamaMax, because he was completely inept in having a good process for actually letting people in. Someone lied about being a victim of the cult and was promptly invited to the server, but before they were asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement that, if broken, could land them in a lot of legal trouble. But there was a problem. The NDA was written using ChatGPT. I don't even think I need to say anything more about that. And when you're running a whole survivor Discord where people are sharing sensitive information and their stories, you really need to be careful. So for everything to go public in the matter it did is shocking, but it doesn't really come as a surprise. Even more so when we remember that Max has actually said in the past that he doesn't do this for the kids. He does it because he likes hurting people. Things would keep going downhill for Max because it was eventually found out that his Mega account had actually been removed and reported to the authorities. For years he had claimed that his Mega account was being used to store evidence against such as them getting off on camera for minors and other things. And he kept this claim up when it was removed. But there was a problem. When Mega removes an account for CSAM offences and gives a warning that they did, they have a process for that. and it doesn't fit Max's story. There are known hashes for CSAM. That's basically numbers and letters. These known hashes then get checked against what people are uploading to their private accounts like Mega, and if one of these hashes do match, then it basically tells the people running the platform to check this person out. This is usually quite airtight, and you don't really get a lot of false positives. In fact, Mega have the information public for how many appeals related to this they have accepted, and the highest amount they have ever unsuspended in a quarter is 10. In some quarters, they even had 0 suspensions retracted. And they operate using known hashes for moderation. So if Max's account was removed for this reason, then it really makes you wonder what was really being stored on there. And he did bring up in an interview with Spencer that he was actually being investigated by the FBI around this time. So it makes you wonder if that is the reason why. And things get worse for Max when he claimed in a call with Midohar and Nicholas that he had actually never had access to the Mega in the first place. He now claims that he had rather sent all of his evidence off to a member of his team who would then upload it to the Mega account and leave it. If this is true, then how can he be so sure in his claim that the supposed member of his team wasn't uploading anything dodgy? Plus, we don't even know that this supposed member of the team even exists, so they very easily could have uploaded something to the account that Max didn't know about. But he is so adamant that the account was falsely suspended, and yet he has 0 evidence to back this up. During all of this drama around him being suspended from Mega, there were a lot of things being brought back up that Max probably would have preferred to stay silent. One thing that was debated was a scene that he included in one of his videos. The scene in question was a simulated scene that had been featured in one of his videos, and it featured someone who was over the age of 18 but was implied to be a child in context. He claimed that the reason he included this was because people weren't as educated on this subject as he would like. And if he truly does believe that, then fine. Write a script taking very good care in treating the subject with care, record it, speak to your camera, release it. You don't need to go out of your way to simulate something that should never be simulated. Shooting a fake scene is not the way to go about it. It's really not a hard ask that you don't dramatize it for profit. And another video that was gaining a lot of attention was one that he had never actually released, but one that he had teased. It was called My Little Pony, and he was going to expose predators in the brony community. He claims that the reason he didn't go through with this was because he didn't want to label the whole community as predators. But as it turns out, that may have been his intention right from the start. Nexpo, also known as Ryan, spoke out in an interview with Nicholas, and explained how Max had approached him with the idea for My Little Pony. Ryan revealed that the whole thing was actually fabricated and was going to be like Max was blowing the top off of the whole situation. It was eventually scrapped, but this was back when he was making videos in unknown games. So it seems as though his plan to fake all of this content was around right from the start. Now, NightDocs is another YouTuber who you may be familiar with, because for years he was in the friend group of Nexpo, MamaMax, etc. But he got dragged into this whole situation because it was revealed that Max had reportedly accused him of being a bad father, being a danger to women, and also being a predator. But the evidence that he had to back any of this up was none. None of this was revealed to the public, but rather it was spread throughout the friend group. So essentially, NightDocs was cast out for nothing other than word of mouth. All of this came to NightDocs when Ryan spoke to him about it, and he wasn't worried because he knew facts were on his side. Max never actually went to NightDocs about this though, and that's something to keep in mind because it will be incredibly important to the next part of this video. Okay, so let's recap. We've got Max making false allegations against NightDocs that he never actually spoke about him to. NightDocs gave MamaMax a home for months and obviously felt betrayed. This seemed like an open and shut case, so imagine my shock when MamaMax released a new video just yesterday, giving his side to the story with some very interesting revelations. For this next section of the video, I did a live stream where I spoke to you guys and gave my thoughts about this raw. This is an edited down version, but if you don't want to miss anything like this in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and put notifications on. But without further ado, here's the situation from MamaMax's point of view.
Hi, hello,
Why should we trust you? There's two sides to every story.
There is two sides to every story, he's right about that. So we're going to listen. We're going to listen, potentially judge, but we're gonna listen.
Ryan and I would become closer than brothers. I think just because he was a year older than me and our opposing personalities mixed well. And there were times when he would ask me questions about living with Jim. And I told him I would help Jim care for his girls when he was busy.
Oh, not sure about that.
Who do you want to be here? You, Miss Max?
I'm gonna skip past this part just because I don't, even if it is helping Max's case in the slightest, I don't really think it's right to include children no matter what the circumstances is, especially in a video like this. So I'm just gonna skip past that part because that's really no one's business but NightDocs.
So just for everyone to be crystal clear on this, Mudahar and Jen were already saying, and I quote, NightDocs is a creep. Even Mudahar himself admits he did not hear any of the rumors from me.
In regards to Jim or NightDocs, there were two allegations, one of them which had come from Max, allegedly.
So let's break this down. Mudahar claims that there were two allegations. One of them, only one of them, had come from me, allegedly, which was that Jim was a bad dad. And then Mudahar even admits he did not hear this rumor from me. It was from an anonymous source within the internal friend group that he intentionally does not name, who was spreading these rumors to him. And then the other allegation...
So I assume the internal, like Max didn't really elaborate on who's actually part of this internal friend group for obvious reasons, but I assume they're referring to the friend group that consists of Mudahar, his wife, Max, NightDocs, Nexpo, and Nick Crowley, and maybe a few others.
Which Mudahar has already implied did not come from me, because remember, only one of them came from me allegedly, which was that Jim was exposing himself to a minor over a Discord video call. So if these rumors did not come from me, who did they come from? It was Ryan who spread those rumors to Mudahar. And from my memory, Mudahar and Jen spread those rumors to everyone else, telling every other...
Okay, what evidence is he given to back up this point? Because again, there's also not really any evidence that Max spread these claims apart from word of mouth, but then again, there's also no evidence that Ryan is the one who spread these claims.
Essentially, the one that I was most bothered by, really, was when he was calling me a pedophile. He wasn't saying it publicly. None of the allegations he had against me were said publicly. He was doing it all behind the scenes with the people that I was closest to.
The truth is that we were all doing this behind the scenes, but it seems no one else wants to take accountability for it, among some of the many other things they don't want to take any accountability for. But don't worry, we will get to them later, and as you'll soon see, their noses are not clean. By this time, I completely...
I mean, with him saying we were all doing that, is that him kind of also admitting that he was also part of spreading those rumors? Because look, no matter who was spreading those rumors, if it was Max or not, right, that's a very shitty thing to do. You don't just go and accuse your friend, or even if they're not your friend anymore, you don't accuse anyone of being something like that without concrete evidence, even privately, because obviously that can have a big effect on someone that clearly did.
My parents checked me into a mental health facility that evening where I stayed for over a week and a half. So I do feel really bad for Jim, and I can empathize with what he was going through, considering I'm going through pretty much the exact same thing that these same people are claiming I orchestrated. Pretty interesting, huh? Until only last week, when Nexpo called me to tell me what Max had done to me behind the scenes. I really believe everything that had happened to me was deserved.
I don't really, like, obviously Max can have mental health issues, that's completely fine, but there is some genuine criticism of his content, and a lot of this situation isn't based on this, it's of the fact that, you know, he's faked his predator catches, hasn't gotten predators arrested, blatantly got his mega account suspended for CSAM violations. It feels like he's tried it in the past to elicit sympathy by, you know, including victim statements from a completely unrelated thing at the end of one of his apology video, well, one of his addressing videos, to, you know, act as if he's, you know, to basically hide behind them. And now this, you know, trying to, you know, say he's, become suicidal because of, I don't know, it just seems quite like, obviously if he's feeling like that's completely valid, and I hope he gets help for that and gets through it, but it also feels like now isn't really the time, you know?
They just blindly believed these claims I supposedly made, that, again, Mudahar admits I did not make, and...
Just, you know, I feel like I can't say his name. Sorry, what Some Ordinary... my accent doesn't work saying that name. What Some Ordinary Gamers is saying here, I feel like it kind of can be taken two ways. So, you know, if Max has already said that, you know, this was already going around the friend group, whereas Ryan's trying to say that Max started all of this, so even, you know, maybe Some Ordinary Gamers didn't know about it at first, but then Max told Nexpo told Mudahar, and it went on from there. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, and I'm not saying anyone started it or anything like that. I'm not, like, that's not for me to say, you know? Like, whoever started it. It's a terrible accusation to either start or spread, but I'm just saying this could very much be looked at in two different ways. And of course, Max is going to be the one to claim that he didn't say stuff like this, but it doesn't help that he has got a track record in the past of falsely accusing people of being predators. Like, Magnetar, for example, who he blatantly accused of being a predator to his over 500,000 audience. And then, you know, doubled down on live streams when he was asked about it.
So just by looking at the thumbnail, I can immediately tell that Nicholas Diorio is going to be as honest and objective as possible by giving me additional hair and enhancing shadows on my forehead to make me look as creepy as possible.
I'm sorry, when this is about as much of a serious subject as that. Someone enhancing the shadows in your forehead and giving you slightly more hair seems to be the thing you could worry about the least. Surely. What?
Jim, I'm glad you got a platform to speak your truth that was worm-tongued into you by Ryan, who no longer wanted to be associated with his best friend that was getting cancelled. Yet the survivors and I have yet to be platformed by any of these people, some of which outright denied us a platform, despite the fact that we are direct sources of information for our side of the story.
Again, I don't really think someone not wanting to give a platform to something... I don't really think it's not wanting to give a platform. I think that someone not wanting content in their channel that is completely wildly out of character of what else would be on their channel, that's fair in my opinion. There's people you can reach out to get that coverage of your story, and obviously it is important stories, but there's people out there who can give dedicated coverage, and I feel like you should be going to them rather than to drama channels.
And only platform each other. What? No, that's not an echo chamber. That's a beacon of truth. And then anyone...
Again, I don't really think it's all an echo chamber. I think there's a lot of genuine criticism to be made of Max, and, you know, everything from him faking his videos to, you know, apparently, this is only alleged, some of the survivors not getting a single sniff of the money that he raised for them. That's genuine criticism, and it's internet criticism, not just some echo chamber.
So this is my Discord correspondence with Ryan.
Okay.
He deleted all of his messages.
I can understand where Max is coming from, that obviously, you know, maybe Ryan did delete the messages because he didn't want to be exposed if there was actually anything to expose, but at the same time, I don't really think it's an uncommon thing for people to maybe unsend the messages or of any correspondence they had with someone who is publicly outcast, you know? Like, it does make sense.
Unfortunately for Ryan, you cannot delete messages from group chats that you've already left. Sorry, Nick, but you're gonna get caught in the crossfire.
Okay. This'll be interesting. These messages show that it was a very, very toxic friend group. Realistically, none of this should have been our business. This should all have been kept private, realistically. But at the same time, you know, now that all of this is public, it does highlight just how much of a toxic friend group that was. I have no idea what the point he's trying to make here. The way we all interpreted, or at least the way I interpreted Mutahar's statement, was that, you know, it was a very toxic friend group. There's no denying that. And I genuinely think that all he's trying to do here is start more drama and drag these creators right back in, especially by showing some of the messages from Nick Crowley here, who, as far as I'm aware, did not speak publicly about this situation at all. He did not speak out against Max.
It's also pretty interesting that Ryan has privated all of his Cringe Kitchen episodes with me and Jim. And
well, that's not really a surprise. Again, you know, let's be real, right? This is what I said earlier. If someone who you were close with is cancelled, of course you're going to want to cut all ties, even if that means deleting messages, privating videos. I would do the same. I would definitely do the same.
Hi, I go by Prox. I'm here to provide a new perspective on the relationship between Max, Ryan, Muda, Nick Crowley, myself, and Jim. Specifically as a witness as it pertains to the allegations from Ryan and Mudahar that Max destroyed Jim's character. Before I get into the main topic, I want to give context on who I am and why my perspective is important. I've been involved with these guys for over 5 years, and I have first-hand experience with many of the people and events I'm going to talk about.
I'm not really sure what this... I mean, I suppose he is kind of backing up what Max has stated here, but again, he's not really saying anything new. Like, we literally... what Max has said, basically, is that the friend group was toxic. Awful things were said. We knew that. this guy's backing that up. Fair enough. We know that now. We already knew it was toxic.
Instead of complaining about Jim's behavior, why don't we just make fun of him all the time? A group gossip tradition of sorts, spearheaded by Ryan, since, from what I remember, making fun of Jim...
Again, that's quite toxic to make fun of someone who's not part of your friend group anymore, but like, see if we're being realistic, it's probably something that a lot of friend groups do and don't admit. I'm not justifying it at all, because it's a very shitty thing to do, but I'm just saying, it's likely not just exclusive to this friend group.
Jim deserves to know the truth. And he's long overdue for an apology.
I completely agree with that. I think that realistically, the person who's hurting the most out of this situation has got to be NightDocs. Because realistically, he's essentially been backstabbed where he's essentially been backstabbed by people who he considered to be friends. Originally, it was Max, and now it appears to be Ryan and the rest of them, right? Again, I don't really think that's our business. Now that we're on to the next section, I do think that everyone's been shitty to NightDocs and he deserves an apology from every single one of them. But at the same time, Max trying to make himself the kind of, you know, the hero of the situation is a bit considering he was there, he still spread the rumours, and yeah, I don't know, you can't really come out positive of this situation.
Ryan? Sure? What's up? What say, man? Fucking love you, dude.
I know. Bye.
Bye.
What? What's the point of showing this clip?
Hey Max, longtime fan here. I was wondering...
What? Bro, it seems like he's just... dude, it seems like he's just inserting the most random out of context clips. Is that just me? I still can't believe, bro, unironically, there's a picture of MLK in his bedroom wall, bro. That... killed me when I saw that. I didn't even know that until recently. And at one point he says they're his inspirations, bro. You fake catching predators for internet clout. You're not on the same level as Martin Luther King.
I don't think NightDocs is a predator. We've made jokes in our friend group. I wouldn't call it predatory, but I would not call it I would rather respect his privacy. Secondly, what's with suing your supposed
friend? Yeah, good. Well, maybe you can also respect others' privacy at the same time, you know, because it feels like this is just a massive invasion of privacy. Like, I don't know. I feel like he could have still put all of this out there without completely invading the privacy of other people who really didn't need to be dragged back into this situation.
I basically realized that this person wants to effectively sue me for a large chunk of money, okay? An obscene amount of money. Why? Because to me, all this appears is all I ever was to this man was an extremely rich friend who had enough social media clout for him to piggyback his stupid case off of.
My stupid case.
Oh, bro, so, yeah, that is a... You know when you're trying to pick at something that small, it's crazy. Realistically, I'm gonna be totally for real right now. I don't think Max has a care in the world for any victims. I really don't. All he cares about is himself, his ego's massively inflated, and picking at something as small as that really highlights that.
Also, why did you lie about certain predators being in police custody, such as Zach?
Oh, I'm very interested to see how he handles this.
You didn't know if he was in police custody. I was just dispensing the information that I was given.
So just for quick context, PabloSunny is a child predator we found on IMVU. He has multiple victims that I made contact with.
Also, just saying, I'm not sure a wife beater tank top was the best choice for a video about this, especially when you have abuse allegations against you.
Platform, and I confirmed that he was grooming minors via direct investigation. We verified his face with a specific hand gesture, and his voice can be confirmed by his friends. After our videos were released, he was exposed to his local community at the Vancouver music scene, many of which I made contact with.
Here are the Instagram messages between me and Zach Hadad's former friend. Hey, I'm making an update video on Zach. Would you like to do an interview for it? Hey man, thanks for the message. Last I heard, he was in police custody. I thought this a fair bit these past few days. I respect your platform and the way you unveiled this information. All of us in the community are still dealing with the weight of it daily, but it gets better only with time. I think I'd rather not do an interview for the video, but would be happy to share my words in written form with you as long as I can remain anonymous. Those closest to me and closest to the situation know how I feel about it, and I posted my thoughts a little while ago after processing this. I'm happy to contribute my words to the video, but that's as far as I'm willing to be involved for my own comfort level. No worries, man. A written statement will work just as well. Hey, we have not heard anything on Zach Hadad for a couple months, either from authorities or peers. We are still in contact with his victims wanting to testify against him. Do you know anything that could help us? Hey Max, thanks for reaching out. We haven't heard any updates about him at all since your video in November, and the whole community here has essentially tried to heal and move on unhealthily. We will continue to condemn his actions and stand with any victims while trying to
Oh, shit.
to say first scene here, but nobody knows anything new, or even where he is. Here are some Instagram messages between me and his former roommate. Hey, has the police put out a statement? I figure they asked everyone to not work with us, but I want to be sure they're actually doing something. Haven't heard anything yet. Do you or anyone has the contact information of the investigator assigned to the case? We have the hotel Zach is staying at and want to give them the information if they're going to use it. We're trying to leave this off of our hands now as we've done all we can. We're still dealing with the aftermath of his eviction and providing support for the people who are closest to him. We don't have any contact for the investigators. For now, we would like some space as we are also grieving and processing the situation. We also appreciate all the help. Hey, sorry to bother you, but we have not heard anything on Zach Adad for a couple months, either from authorities or peers. We are still in contact with his victims wanting to testify against him. Do you know anything that could help us? Unfortunately, I don't. Haven't heard from any of his family, and the law enforcement didn't take any action after we all gave statements and offered any evidence in the house. Thank you for your response. Do you know anyone who has contact with him, or know if he's still with his girlfriend when this all happened? Nobody that I know of is in contact with him, and they are not together. And here are some Instagram messages between me and one of his former victims. Hi, I'm a victim of Zach Adad's grooming and luring of young girls. He did not do this online, but in person while he was 19.
So it seems that Max, fair enough. If it seems like he was being truthful when he was interviewed on a podcast and saying that he did think that this PabloSunny guy was in police custody. Obviously the guy got let go, but yeah, fair enough. He's managed to disprove that point. This just makes Max seem sloppy. He couldn't confirm PabloSunny was in jail, but he confidently boasted about it on a podcast. Yeah, I do agree. Like, see, when it's something like this, it's kind of hard because Max is a content creator, but then again, if he can't handle it with care, then should he really be doing this content in the first place? But like, it is kind of common knowledge, especially if you're like a journalist or something like that, which Max obviously isn't. You know, if you're not confident about something, probably keep it to yourself and don't say it in the public eye.
Pretty funny how these commentary channels keep cutting out context to these clips, and then
I do think that commentary channels especially do pick and choose a lot, but it's not very good that Max is making this point when throughout this video he has also picked and choosed what to show. Like, if you're gonna make a point, don't do the thing that you're trying to outlaw in your point.
Max starving and hurting Spencer? Looks like Spencer is on Facebook in groups asking for money for moving. She's claiming Max is domestically abusing her and starving her.
She doesn't say his name, but it's very implied because she lives with him. Wasn't Max supposed to give her a bunch of money? Seems like she spent it or he lied. Here's screenshots I got, but covered people not involved with them. I met this young girl online from a post she shared in a local group. She's doing her best to get out of a really bad domestic situation. She's trying to get back local to stay with friends where she will no longer have to starve, but can't bring herself to abandon her dog there. I know some don't get it, but some will. She found a friend who will foster her dog until she gets on her feet. She just needs some help. Even small donations add up.
This is a fucking scam. Where's my nacho fries?
All I can tell you is that we had plenty of food when she was living here. We always got her food every time she asked. When she wasn't buying her own food, I would go to the food bank and get her food, or pay for her food, or share our food with her. I even got her $31.63 worth of Taco Bell while she was packing her stuff. And
I do believe Max on this. I think that from a lot of the things that we can publicly see, I don't really think that Spencer is a great person, to be honest, right? That's been my opinion since the start of this all. And I wouldn't put it past her to lie about something like this.
So I ended up moving in with the YouTuber that was supposed to help me expose the cult, as it was my last resort.
Also, just this first part. They've always claimed that Spencer was an old family friend who then reconnected with Max. So to refer to him as just the YouTuber, that is really two things. It's kind of like they were either both lying about the fact they were family friends to kind of elicit sympathy and get donations that way, or she's lying here. And again, I wouldn't put it past either of them, so it's really difficult to decide which one of that is there.
He promised to cover food, medical, everything. Well, he only wanted to help for the money, so he never paid any of my medical from the start. This isn't true. I paid for her first few bills, but then
this is very good. Very good that he has receipts for this. Look, see everything he said before this part about Mudahar Nexpo thing. It's really just word against word, but the fact he's actually got hard proof to back this up, I think that he could actually be being honest here for once. But then again, there might also be some distruth to what he's saying, so we'll need to see.
He was buying food at first, but then he tanked his career, which in turn has...
I think that's a bit of a weird way to put it, considering that Spencer is one of the people who very much tanked his career. I would say, if it wasn't for the whole Spencer thing, all of this eventually may have come out, but that was definitely a catalyst in all of this. This is kind of weird, right? Because I feel like with this case in particular, Max might have had good intentions, and he didn't handle it. He didn't handle it well. Overall, Max doesn't care about victims. I'll say that. I'll put it out there. I am very much going to say that. Max does not care about victims. For years, he's used them for profit, right? But I think when this whole Spencer thing came around, I think he did have good intentions, but he handled it in the way that Max did. He handled it in the MamaMax way, and that's not the way you should handle such serious topics, but he didn't know any better. And that's not me saying that that's... Like, I'm not trying to give him justification that he didn't know any better. He should have known better. With a platform the size of his, it's his job to know better.
He's not physically hurting me, but was withholding funds that were supposed to be mine since January. Saw me struggling to donate plasma just to feed my dog and myself. So the funds were meant for all of the survivors, not just for her.
Whoa, yes, bringing it up.
And after I discovered she was mishandling the money for her personal...
I knew it. I am so sorry, right? See, for those who don't know, MamaMax started a GoFundMe for the survivors of this cult, right? And he gave the role of financial manager to Spencer, which everyone could tell at the time was a bad idea, but he wouldn't listen. So he gave her the role, and then it gained almost $10,000, potentially more, right? That wasn't her money. That was not her money. It was always clear that that was for all of the survivors and it would be split evenly amongst them. So her trying to twist this as him withholding the funds, especially when he's now claiming that she misheld that money, which, let me be clear, comes as a surprise to absolutely no one.
I was just asking her if she was in a healthy relationship. Because by her own words, she has been in abusive relationships before. And as a friend, this current one didn't look that great to me and pretty much everyone else. Mainly because
I think that's
a
normal time for people, a normal thing for people to question, especially if they're friends.
Also, whatever happened to the $5,000 in survivor funds I sent back to you in January for the GoFundMe, it could really help me access better mental health treatment when I leave, as well as get me situated.
This is literally that meme, by the way. Heartbreaking, worst person you know makes a very good point.
But I decided it was better to give the rest of the money to the other survivors.
Good! Spencer, you know what? Very, very smart move from Max, and something that actually makes him look good. Wow.
Use the money for personal expenses. Hey, I'm in the ER right now and may be admitted.
Well done, Max!
I'm really sorry to hear that, but I've already distributed the remaining funds to other survivors since it was meant for everyone. However, I can definitely send you some resources for financial assistance with medical bills if you'd like.
Again, that's a very nice...
You said you would be paying me $3,300. You don't get to go back on that after a little bit of time has passed. You do not get to make decisions about where the funds go without talking.
Whoa, okay, see this part about her saying you don't get to make decisions about where the funds go? First of all, yes he does, and second of all, it was always clear from the start that these funds were going to all the survivors, not just you. Like, that's only $5,000 as well, so we can only imagine that she had already gotten some of that money before, so technically, she got her share of it. And especially if Max had already given her money out of his own pocket before.
I understand you're expecting payment, but after reviewing the contract, it's clear that the financial responsibilities weren't met, and the majority of the funds were used for your personal expenses.
Again, this isn't a legally binding contract. We spoke about earlier about how Max writes his contracts using ChatGPT, so they're basically all built. But, still, as a person giving out the contract, even if it's not legally binding, you know, if you see someone breaking that contract, you're still well within your rights not to give them any money, especially if you feel that they're mishandling that money.
So, I did not want to believe it, but it has become clear to me now that Spencer is dishonest.
Huh.
While making
Whoa, hold on guys, I need a second to process that. A dishonest person is dishonest.
So for those of you that don't know, I was volunteering with an organization known as CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates for Children. It is a great organization that teaches people how to advocate for children in the United States legal system as a guardian ad litem. You are essentially a free social worker who interviews children, their families, teachers, doctors, and everyone who has information on the child's life in order to serve their best interests in a court of law. I highly recommend volunteering if you are interested in children's advocacy or the legal system. I was doing all of this privately, but unfortunately a group of cyber stalkers found me in the CASA of El Paso Instagram page, and my stalkers proceeded to harass this organization, posting their emails and phone numbers, encouraging everyone to spam them with the drama surrounding me.
Yeah, again, I don't think that's right. I really don't think that's right at all. Like he says, he's been doing this privately, completely offline, and to be honest, like I've said before, sometimes it can border into stalking, even though people think they're just following internet drama. I do think, like I say, I think he should be able to go and continue his life. I don't think he's addressed this in the way he should have. A lot of this video was kind of deflecting blame and responsibility again and trying to drag other people down with him. I do believe that he genuinely wants to have an offline life and wants to do advocacy like he said, but I also don't think that this video was that smart of an idea. Maybe if it was just the Spencer stuff, but... And an apology to NightDocs, first and foremost. But, like, yeah. I do think that people who got him discharged from his role really need to have a hard look at themselves.
I know a lot of people are blaming me for the predators not getting arrested, but I'm not an officer of the law. I'm not a judge. We have to look to...
Listen, right? These people, YouTubers aren't officers of the law, but see, when they do content like this, they have a responsibility to actually inform law enforcement about what they're doing and also educate themselves on the law. For example, when I did my predator catch in real life, I haven't uploaded that video, obviously, because that hasn't gone to trial yet. I will only be uploading that after the case is completely over. And that was because I spoke to the police, the local police in the area that predator resided in, and also I have spoken to many other people who have much better knowledge in that sector than me. And that was one of Max's first mistakes, because he can say that he's not an officer of the law all he likes, but if you're going to be doing content like that, your job is to make it as easy as possible for the police to get a conviction. And if you don't do that, then there's no point in you doing that content, because convictions aren't going to follow.
Section 230 protects platforms from being held liable for user-posted content. So let's use an infamous teen dating app as an example. Despite the fact that they have a massive child predator problem, they can't be held liable for the crimes that are being committed on their platform, and thus have no incentive to fix the issues, except for reputational damage when someone...
Yeah, exactly. Like, that is a big change that needs to happen. Platforms need to be able to be held accountable for the content that's on their site, because it's like Tumblr, Twitter, all these platforms have massive predator problems, and the platforms won't do anything about it because they know that they're basically immune from any sort of prosecution.
So I have 4 very good dogs that I love with all of my heart. First one is Ruby. She will always be my baby. I rescued her in Dallas when she was a puppy.
They're cute dogs, but I'm afraid I don't care.
Belfgor represents the closing chapter for this part of my life, and he's the very reason why I'm finally able to make this video. It all began when Spencer asked if I could help her get a service dog. I've always believed dogs are among the most loving companions, and I thought one could help her learn responsibility and heal emotionally, so I agreed. Since we couldn't afford the steep cost of a trained service dog, we made a deal. Spencer would raise and train one herself. She found the breed she wanted, and soon after, we brought home this beautiful boy, Belfgor. At first, Spencer did a decent job taking care of him, but as her awareness campaign gained traction, she became increasingly consumed by the gossip and drama surrounding her.
And slowly she began neglecting Belfgor. I stepped in, taking over his care, and over the course of that year, Belfgor and I formed an unbreakable bond. I loved him deeply and wanted to keep him. But when Spencer's behavior led to her eviction from our household, I felt obligated to honor our original agreement, and I let her take him. Instead of keeping him, however, Spencer raised money on Facebook to send him across the country to a friend who would train him as a service dog. And on August 14th, 2024, we forced him into a crate in the back of the animal transport. I said my final goodbye, my heart breaking as I watched him disappear. This felt like the worst thing I'd ever done in my entire life.
Yeah, again, this is a lot of sympathy bait from Max, and he's done this before. He's done this exact type of thing before, so it's very much sympathy bait, because it's always at the end of the video as well. But at the same time, it also is very how Spencer treated this dog, and it seems as though he does have proof of that. So that's very, very terrible.
Then came some devastating news. Belfgor had run away from a dog sitter and was now in the custody of an animal shelter. The trainer assured me this was my best chance to reclaim him. But before I could act, Spencer sent me a cease and desist letter, trying to prevent the shelter from releasing Belfgor to me.
I'm not gonna lie, that feels like another ChatGPT written thing. You can't just... What is it with Max and Spencer and using ChatGPT for all of their legal action? You can't just claim that something's a cease and desist, like, especially over something like this. I'm sorry, it's crazy. Especially if Max has the legal paperwork for the dog.
I fired back with my own cease and desist.
Oh!
Declaring my rightful ownership and my determination to...
Wait, that's all. See, the bullet points and stuff, that's again written exactly how his NDA was written with ChatGPT.
I'm so grateful for all of you who believed in me and waited patiently for me to give my side. But I don't blame you if you believed in all of the rumors. There's a lot of effective storytellers here on YouTube.
Bro, there's not rumors. There's a lot of it is backed up. It's not just rumors, and here we go. See, just when I thought that at least half of this video was decent, he just goes back to deflecting from everything again and making himself out to be some sort of hero. He's not. MamaMax is not a good person, okay? His YouTube content is even worse. If he wants to better himself in the offline world, which he seemed to be doing for a bit through his work with, you know, the child advocacy stuff, then fair enough. That's good for him. I'm very happy for him that he got his dog back. But at the same time, you can't just say, thank you for people who have been sticking around and for backing me up after all this rumors. Yeah, it's not just that. He still has this many Patreons? That's insane. Special thanks to my real friends who stood back. Get a grip, brother. Wait, special thanks to my peers who have reviewed this video. People watched this and told them it was a good idea? Bro, oh no, that's how you know if your friends are real ones or not. This was crazy. It feels like Max just dragged everyone back in who didn't need to be dragged back in. Realistically, we all knew that, you know, there were people in the wrong. That Nexpo and other people in that old friend group may have said bad things, but at the same time, we also knew that Max was a part in saying these bad things. And realistically, he's trying to paint himself out to be the best guy in this situation when that is far from the truth. That is just a complete not true. And you don't even need to know much about this whole situation to know that. The friend group was toxic. That's it. Okay? If you weren't around for this whole stream and want to watch Max's video in your own time, don't bother. If you're gonna watch any part, watch the part where he actually told the truth. Watch the part on Spencer, because I genuinely do believe that Spencer is manipulative and that Max is at least telling the truth as much as he can there. So yeah, if you're gonna watch any part, watch for the Spencer part, but everything else, I think that it's just stuff we already knew, regurgitated, and the dog section was just sympathy bait, as he's done before. At least it wasn't with CSA survivors this time though, because he has done that before. He's put CSA survivor stories at the end of the video. So at least it wasn't that, if we're taking any positives from that. Oh my god, I cannot believe what I just watched. It feels like that was a massive waste of time. Thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate you. Like, subscribe, share the video, do all of that good stuff if you did enjoy, and let me know in the comments what you think of the whole MamaMax situation. It's so crazy that this is still going on. That's a bit of a different video, but you know, it'll be back to regular scheduling soon. I just did this live stream and thought, hey, why not turn it into a full thing? Don't forget to check me out on social media. I have Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. And thank you so much to my Patreon supporters and YouTube members: Brooke, Entrepreneur, Morrigan, K4 Silver, Alex Rod, Based Finger, Carmilla, Tango Slime, Shoshka, Reed, Frozen Roses, Nisha Coles, and Midnight Kitty. And also, don't forget to check out www.lemminor.com. This is my next big project. It's coming soon. So excited to share more with you guys. I'll be back soon with another video, but if you want another right now, then YouTube thinks you'll like the video that's on your screen.